My name is Emily Carney. For those of you who probably don't know me, I started a Facebook group a few years back called Space Hipsters, and as of now, we have about 18,500 people in the group. We're one of the biggest space enthusiast communities in the world. And also, I have a space history blog called The Space Available, and I write about a lot of different spaceflight history topics. And today, I want to talk to all of you about, for about a few minutes, about a program that is really underrated and really doesn't get its due, I think, in as far as spaceflight history is concerned, because it occupies kind of a weird place in space history between the Apollo lunar missions, which obviously were a huge deal, and the space shuttle, which was really spectacular as well for those of you who lived through that. And that program is called Skylab. And for those of you who aren't aware of what, sorry, this is my cat, Bandit. Hi, Bandit. For those of you who aren't aware of what Skylab was and is, it is the United States' first space station. It was launched in May 1973, but it almost didn't happen at all. And I'm going to tell you a little bit why. Now, you may ask, Emily, why are you so into Skylab? Why is it such a big deal? It's not something people talk a lot about now. And the reason why is because Skylab really was the first really the predecessor to the International Space Station, which may have, some of you may know, is currently orbiting over our heads. It was the first real science platform in space, and it worked in three different distinct areas and really advanced those fields. And those three areas were biomedical studies in space, solar physics, because it had the Apollo telescope mount, which was for its time, a very sophisticated solar telescope, and it also observed the Earth. It had a also very sophisticated Earth remote sensing camera type package, and it would take a lot of very high resolution photos of places of Earth, and it was really one of the first programs that in the 1970s that really paid a lot of attention to looking at our own planet. So that's why Skylab is very important. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't remember it as much nowadays because it was a very brief program, lasted less than a year, and only had 3 missions. Also, we're going to talk a little more about it, but it also had kind of an interesting reentry over Australia. So I'm going to bring that up a little bit. First, I want to talk about when Skylab launched. It launched on May 14th, 1973. And when it launched, a lot of really bad things happened. A lot of people really don't remember this, but basically, in a nutshell, the space station almost did not make it to even orbit. About 60 seconds into the launch, the micrometeoroid shield, which was on front of the station, started to tear off. And what this did was it wrapped debris around the 2 solar panels that were on the side. About 10 minutes in to the launch, when the S2 stage finally separated, one of the solar panels tore off completely and the other one jammed. So when flight controllers were looking at the space station, they were like, why isn't there any electricity? This is really weird. Why is the temperature inside the workshop, skyrocketing? So a lot of really bad things were happening to the space station from the very beginning. Another thing that happened was the S2, the interstage skirt between the S1C stage and the S2 stage. The S2 was the terminal stage for Skylab. Didn't come off, so the S2 stage began to overheat really badly. And by the time it separated, it probably was moments away from really detonating. And that would have just destroyed Skylab completely, and we wouldn't be hearing about it now. So, yeah, it had a lot of horrendous launch injuries, and for a while, NASA was like, are we even going to be able to fix this? So, within about a 10-day period, with help from the backup crew of Rusty Schweikert, Story Musgrave, and Bruce McCandless, who are big names in spaceflight, if you look them up. They devised some plans to help fix the remaining solar panel and also put a replacement sunshield up. And the first crew launched on May 25th, about 10 days later, roughly. And they consisted of Joe Kerwin, Pete Conrad, and Paul Weitz. And to put a long story short, we're about 5 minutes in, and there's some little more I want to cover. This crew was able to put up a replacement sunshield, and they were also able to fix the jammed solar panel. Pete Conrad and Joe Kerwin, did a really incredible EVA, and they managed to, fix the solar panel, which was really amazing, and they basically helped save the space station. Following that, a second crew launched in July of that year, 1973, and that crew consisted of Commander Alan Bean, who walked on the moon like Conrad before him, Owen Garriott, who was the science pilot, and Jack Lousma, who was the pilot. And one of their accomplishments was on August 6th of that year, Lousma and Garriott did another EVA, and they put up what is called the Twin Pull Sunshield. If you see pictures from that mission later, there's kind of two poles and a sunshield above the station, and that's the one they put up. And that was a very long EVA. They were out there for about 6 hours or so, and they managed to put that up to fix as a more permanent, solution, because the other sunshield wouldn't have lasted very long. So they did that and bought some more time for the space station. The third crew was Jerry Carr, who was the mission commander, who wrote, let me get this out, he wrote a really good book. This will probably be backwards, unfortunately. Around the World in 84 Days. Y'all should go out and buy it and read it. Jerry Carr, Ed Gibson, who was the science pilot, and also Bill Pogue, who was the mission pilot. And they were a really incredible crew. They were up there for, like I said, about 84 days. And they really did a lot. They observed Comet Kohutek, and they did Gibson was a solar physicist. He was actually, I think, the first solar physicist who went to space. And he did a lot of observations on the sun, and we really got to see the sun as never before. And it was just incredible. And really, it was the longest long-duration mission, I want to say, until the mid-1990s, when astronauts started going up on the Soviet, or Russian, I should say, Mir space station. So it was a big watershed moment in spaceflight history. Now we have about a couple minutes left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some books about Skylab. I have these away somewhere, so I won't show them to you, but we have the Skylab mission reports through Apogee Books. They're really excellent. If you want to find kind of details about Skylab, it's full of them. They're by Dwight Stephen Bonecki, and he also did a really awesome movie that you all should watch called Searching for Skylab. I believe it's available on Vimeo, and you all should check it out. It's really wonderful. Probably the best narrative book about Skylab is called Homesteading Space. This might be backwards. It was written by David Hitt, Owen Garriott, and Joe Kerwin, and the latter two were actually Skylab astronauts. And this is a wonderful book. I think you all should read it. There is a NASA history book about Skylab that you might be able to find. It's more technical, but it's called Living and Working in Space. It's the NASA history of Skylab. And if you look on eBay and some other sources, there are some kind of, their time resources like this. This is from 1973, and it's kind of an overview of the program. So, in closing, I just want to say that I thank you for your time. I'm really honored to be doing this, and I hope this little video inspires you to read more about a program that really doesn't get a lot of, I think, a lot of credit. It really was a predecessor to the International Space Station, and if it hadn't existed, we wouldn't have found out a lot about human physiology in space and a lot of Earth and Sun processes. And those are very pioneering things, and I've been very blessed to talk to some of the program's astronauts and talk about Skylab with them, and it's been really incredible. So, on that, read more about Skylab, okay? All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.